Hey, sword fans. Been a while, but I was going through some orders that I'm packing today and I realized I have a lot of one particular thing. I am currently inundated with Indo Persian shields, and they're a thing that I've always had, I've always collected, and I've always loved. And these are ones that I have for sale at the moment. A few of them were from my personal collection that I've decided to move on, but it is now time for them to go and for me to find a new one. So I'm going to start out with a little bit of a showcase of what they are. So the Indian Shield, or Dhal, is a very interesting buckler type shield. They can be various sizes, but they are all held at with a knuckle grip. So I'll pick one up now just to demonstrate. This one doesn't actually have a finger strap, but they are held like a buckler against the knuckles. And they are wonderful things and very, very versatile considering the arms that they were paired with. So we're going to start off with the smaller bucklers, and these are from South India. I have heard these called Padicha or Parisa. I am not sure which one is correct. I call them South Indian Dhals just for the sake of simplicity. This one, these next two are from Kerala, perhaps into Tamil Nadu, but more likely Kerala, Karnataka, that sort of area. Firstly, there is this copper one, and this is copper with yellow metal details. Might be a bit easier to see there. There you go, in focus. So it is quite a thin buckler, and you can still see these being used by practitioners of Kalari Pataya, which is the South Indian martial art. This came from a rather prominent collection, and I was very lucky to get my hands on it before it went for general sale, because I'd always wanted one of these, and these are very hard to find. They are one of the rarest Indian shields. I know lots of Indian shields are quite rare, but that's more because there are lots of entry level variants and not many high quality ones. These ones, there just aren't many in general. I have seen maybe 24 of these outside of museums, and they are incredible pieces because these were around when there was the rebellion circa 1803, and it was one of the first large-scale rebellions against the East India Company rule of land they had purchased or agreed on or taken. And after this series of wars in the south of India, this martial art was essentially banned. So, a bit like modern day HEMA, what we see being practiced is almost a resurrected lineage, because these shields weren't around for a fair amount of British rule in India. So place that one down. But that was a all right quality one. These are generally rare. They're not like hide Dhals where you can get dozens of them. But I managed to find an incredibly good quality one, and here you go. This one is again yellow metal, but if you look at the back, you can see it on the back easier, it has been gilded. So this is a yellow metal, gilded South Indian Dhal or buckler. You can see a lot easier on this one that it's held at distance. If I just pick up a sword, this is going to be quite awkward. This is the first video I'm doing sitting down. So, nice shamshir. Having the curve and the small shield gives you a lot of protection, whilst also giving you the versatility to move around your defensive weapon. These are wonderful things. Good sword as well. Place that there. And they are quite spectacular pieces. This one I'm going to try and get into focus. Is covered in wonderful details. The bosses of the Indian Dhal, they are used to cover the bolts that hold in the grip. And on this one, the bolts are quite nice. The bolts have actually been carved to match the front, and they are often flower buds. So this is 4 flower buds in a large foliate. Let's see if we can get that to focus. A large foliate pattern shield. And this one is quite substantial, but also this is one of the best quality ones I have seen outside of a museum. And I was very lucky to get my hands on this. Annoyingly, I found the other one, which is, I would say, medium quality, just above entry level, because there are no entry level collector's pieces of these South Indian shields. But I then found this one about 2 months later. So since I acquired these first 2, I have since had 4 more of these. They tend to fly out the shop. They are really, really nice shields and quite highly sought after, because even though it is a relatively unknown piece of history, the history of South India and the history of South India's conflicts with the Islamic nations coming from the north and the foreign nations that came from the west is spectacular. And like they didn't have the same conflicts with the Dutch as the Sri Lankans had, or the Ceylonese, but their conflicts with the Portuguese and the British, mainly the British, are awe-inspiring. And the wars in South India that led to those weapons being eventually banned were, well, not banned, but the martial art dying out in the period. They were spectacular, and they led to the British presence going from a few thousand men and various families to, I think the number was 85,000 soldiers, then their families. So these rebellions and the fear they caused were partly responsible for the large British presence in India. And incredible reading. There's not much written about it in English, but I have got through pretty much everything there is, and incredible conflicts to read about. So, now we're going to move on to the North Indian shield, and I have 3 of these. So, starting off, there is the entry to mid-level one. Again, it is held like a buckler and held at arm's length. Once again, you can see, even though this covers a lot more of me, it still gives you the same versatility with a weapon. Again, that's still quite hard to do sitting down. Um, but yeah, considering the vast array of weapons used in North India, it's a very useful piece of kit. And I much prefer this to conceptually a shield that's strapped to my arm. Because I am a historical fencer. I do use knuckle boss and strap shields just to experiment with what would have been used. And I prefer these. I very much prefer these. I even have a Gatka buckler that I do fence with full intensity and protective kit. And they are great pieces of equipment. This one is a relatively standard mid-range one. It is hide and iron. It has been given a new pad at the back so it can be gripped, which is quite nice. I don't usually agree with modifying or improving antiques, but among various cultures and various communities, there are different concepts of what is acceptable restoration. And this one came to me like this, and I quite like it. It's very nice. And being able to figure out how the methods and the usage of these weapons from the European point of view, as someone who's read the historical sources and manuals on sword fighting, it's interesting. I like it. And considering these weapons were used for about 500 years with not an insane amount of change, it speaks to how good they were. And just for context, various authors have written that there were two main ways of using a buckler or a dhal, and passive protection against the chest or active protection either at a slant or lower and facing your enemy. And that gives you, that just gets it out of the way and keeps your chest slightly safer, and you can wave your sword all around your body, which quite useful to do. I like to do this when practicing sword and buckler techniques. And then this, you can still get your sword around it, and it doesn't block your eyes, and that just provides an obstacle. Great little things. This one is quite new to me. It showed up on my most recent Instagram post, and it will be going up for sale on my website soon if it doesn't get sold on social media. But a nice entry-level piece, and I'm a fan of these. I will buy as many of these as I can, just because they're nice. And this is a very substantial one as well. The hide is about 1/2 inch thick. Don't know if that's showing up on camera, but I hope it is. It's amazing. I love these. Slightly awkward logistically sitting down for a video. Okay, now moving on to, have another pole wall. Moving on to another North Indian shield. This one is essentially the same but higher quality. This one is brass. Well, I believe there is a steel core and it's been covered in yellow metal. The interesting construction of this one, though, is, as you can see, there's a small section where you can see there. Hopefully that is visible. This is made of pressed plates of metal. In between those, there is a layer of velvet. So where the open work has been added to the front, there is fabric showing through. Also 4 lion bosses, relatively common on metal shields, and also like in central India you find them on the hide or leather ones a bit more. This is a very substantial shield. It is hefty. I am quite a strong man, I would say, and this would be hard to hold for a significant period of time, but it is a good piece, solid, and this is sort of like mid-range collectible, mid-range approaching high-end, because it's very interesting construction. It is almost pristine aside from organic wear and tear that's happened to the velvet, and it is just solid and incredible. Very heavy as well. I would not want to hold that for a long time, but I do not train to hold a shield for a living most days of my life. Admittedly, I am a paid professional when it comes to martial arts, but I don't hold a shield most days. But yeah, wonderful piece. Great quality, very substantial, very solid. And I believe that's already on my website, but I may need to add it. Now moving on to one of the rarer pieces. This is a high Dhal, and this one is Indian, perhaps Bhutanese, but I very much suspect India. And this one is, put it upside down. This one is huge. This one is just under 2 foot across. I think I measured it at 28 inches, but it is a very substantial piece, and it is covered in Hindu talismanic cartouche. Let me remove the label so no one sees where I get my stuff from. And let's see if I can get it in the light. I have put other pictures of this on my Instagram page. This one, you can see the hide was left with the skin on. It has 4 iron bosses, a central sun boss or cartouche, and then a variety of cartouche around the edges. Each of them will depict a story, but they also would have provided spiritual and talismanic support from for the owner. And it's a very nice piece because it is very solid. It is not in the best condition compared to the other one, but it tells a story, and the story is that it was used a lot. It would have been used, it would have been loved, and it's quite unique because having these Hindu symbols all over it, because I'm assuming they were added at a later date, and it has been given a reinforced copper band and little copper finials there. Finials? I don't know. Attachments. And it's just a very attractive piece. It does have also a old museum label on it. Don't know what museum it came from, but that's been in private hands since at least the 1950s, 60s. But wonderful piece. Wish I knew the provenance, but as it is, it's just a great item. A little bit larger, so would have been harder to use with a weapon, and also a heavier item to hold at arm's length. And being a North Indian weapon, there is an allowance for that. So again, another new piece coming to me is this, that's come to me is this pulwar. These pulwars are the swords of Afghanistan, and this is quite a small one, but I picked it up mainly because it has its original fabric scabbard with wonderful patterning on it. And this weapon would have been used with these larger shields because, as you can see, it doesn't have a crazy disc pommel. I can bend my wrist with it without anything digging into me. Having extra wrist mobility allows for a larger shield that can be moved around somewhat more. And it's a very interesting weapon pairing, and it just goes to show that the smallest design feature can completely change your weapon sets. Lastly, I'm going to show off one more shield, and let me get something else to accompany that. Here we have so the back of this is hard to hold, but that is a Farangi Dhal. This is a Dhal that has been made in the style of a European shield. This shield is relatively old. It's a smidge older than the others, aside from the South Indian ones. This one dates from about the 18th century. It could be very late 17th, but I doubt it. It is incredible quality pattern welded steel that has been made to look like an Italian rotella, because, as we know, lots of sword blades and sword styles were sold in India, and Italy and Germany were two of the main culprits when it came to driving fashion for exotic weapons in India. This rotella style shield, you can mainly tell it's Indian but not Indian because of its lack of bosses. So this shield has been made with no bosses. I suspect the bolts that hold the grip handles in have just been countersunk into the back, and very cleverly done because there's no evidence of tampering on the front. Also, let me see if I can get a bit of a... Hopefully you can see the pattern welding on there, but if not, I promise you it's there. And I may do a picture or photo shoot of these shields later on this week. Depends how busy I am. But yeah, this is a weapon that is not exactly Indian, not exactly European. It is a mix of both, and it is a fascinating look into how different countries influenced each other. Being Italian or generally European style is quite a fun thing. I have seen, especially from the city of Lucknow, the enameled shields there and the copper work from Kashmir often apes European style weapons, and it's just an incredible piece. I'm a big fan, and to go with it, there is this Farangi Qatar, which annoyingly my paws are too big to get into, but it has the end of a broadsword blade in there. Let me get some focus. Let me move the light a smidge. There you go. So that is likewise a foreign influenced weapon found in India, and most likely not used together. It's quite a nice pairing because they are both made in steel, and rather than the brass work or the copper work that was found elsewhere. And it's just an incredible example of how foreign weapons influenced India. So, to conclude, Indian shields are amazing. There is wonderful history on them, and I have a lot for sale at the moment. If you're seeing this video 1 or 2 years down the line, feel free to message me, but chances are these are all gone already. And I feel like my next video will be on Farangi weapons, so it will start out with that shield again, and then I'll move on to a few more interesting pieces. Alright, sword fans, thank you for being patient with me between the videos I'm doing. Take it easy, have a good day, and I will see you later.